Welcome to Empowering Plans, a show dedicated to identifying waste and undue expense in the health benefits industry, discovering ways to maximize benefits while minimizing costs, and empowering employers, administrators, and consultants to emphasize, once again, the benefit in benefit plan. Today's episode is brought to you by the FIA Group, empowering plans since 1999. Now here are your hosts, the FIA Group's own CEO, Adam Russo, and Senior Vice President and General Counsel, Ron Peck.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Empowering Plans with the FIA Group. I am your co-host, Adam Russo. Alongside me is Ron Peck. Say hello, Ron.
Hello, Ron.
And our newest addition, say hello, Brady Bizzarro. Say hello, Brady.
Hey, everyone.
Yeah, that wasn't that great of an intro, Brady.
He's working on it.
I'm just being honest. That was horrible. Can we start again? Can you say hello, Brady?
Hello, Brady.
All right, there we go.
Yes.
Much better. So, folks, for months, we've been ignoring your request to have someone else outside of FIA talk.
Somebody requested
All we get is emails and tweets and texts saying, "Can you guys just interview somebody?" So Ron and I said, "Who in the world can possibly be more interesting than us? Who could they possibly want to talk to that would know more about self-funding, have more passion about the self-insured industry than Brady, Ron Peck, and myself?" And it took us a long time to figure it out, but we figured finally there's one person out there. Let's see if we can get him to call in. And that person is Mike Ferguson, who is the president and CEO of SIA. And not only did Mike agree to do this, he flew all the way here just for us. We have in the flesh. Amazing. Mike, thank you so much for joining us here at Empowering Plans with the FIA Group.
Hey guys, thanks for having me. I'm just so excited to be here at the FIA World headquarters and look forward.
FIA World Headquarters.
Yeah, we're working on HQ number 2. We have bids out.
I can show him the view of the 3 dumpsters I have from my corner office. I could do that after this. So, Mike, thank you so much. If you wouldn't mind, just talk about maybe your role at SIA, how you got into this whole industry in the first place, and just tell our audience a little bit about yourself.
Sure. I guess first is I guess I'm sort of a strange person maybe for many ways, one of which is that I've sort of stuck around one organization for a long time. It's going to be this August, I'm going to be with SIA organization for 26 years.
Nice.
If you can believe that. Shortly after college and grad school, I kind of stumbled into a job with SIA and over the years ended up doing a variety of different roles and then took over the president CEO role about 6 years ago. It's been a great ride, met a lot of great people, and still lots of stuff to come.
So you might not actually believe this, but there may be people listening, Adam, Mike, Brady, who don't know what SIA is.
Or who it represents.
Yeah.
Well, let's get to it then.
Let's do this.
Let's do it. So SIA, Self-Insurance Institute of America, the way I explain it, we're a nonprofit trade association that represents companies involved in the self-insurance marketplace. So what does that mean? Well, it means employers that self-insure their health benefits as well as workers' comp and some captive insurance companies, and all their business partners, the third-party administrators, the stop-loss insurance carriers, and the specialty service vendors such as FIA that help them control their plan costs. So collectively, we refer to that as the self-insurance industry or self-insurance marketplace, and SIA is the home for all of those folks.
How big is SIA?
So SIA has about 800 members spread across the country. There's certain geographic hubs, but we have members in almost all 50 states and a few countries outside the U.S. So we're a fairly sizable trade association.
So when you say 800 members, you mean organizations that are members?
Corporate members, that's right.
So what would you say on a typical annual event? How many people normally go to a SIA conference, let's say?
Sure.
The national conference.
Well, the big conference we have every year is the SIA National Conference, and we have typically around 1,600 registrants for that conference. And then we do 4 specialty conferences in the springtime with various attendants at those. So collectively, probably 3,000 people attend SIA live events during the course of a year.
Amazing. And, it's funny because you talk about the different organizations and interests that you're representing, and we're frequently talking about the self-funded industry, and I like actually you refer to us as a specialty services vendor. I've never really thought of myself as being that special, but I do now.
You're very special, right?
I appreciate that. I feel like we're talking frequently during this podcast and our webinars about how even though we're an industry and there's a lot of interests in other industries who definitely don't have our best interests in mind, within our industry, it often feels like there's a lot of conflict or people pulling in different directions or maybe doing things in their own interest that don't necessarily help the industry as a whole. And in your position where you're kind of the mother hen and trying to bring them all back in and try to teach them, hey guys, we're a team. How do we coordinate? How do we work together? Have you been finding that there are more conflicts than in the past, that it's just been something that's been constant? And how are you dealing with that?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's been an issue for SIA for a number of years, and I wouldn't say it's a major issue, but I think it's by virtue of the fact that our industry is a very entrepreneurial industry, and we meaning our members, service provider members, are always looking to sort of do things better, smarter, bring the self-insurance solution down to a lower demographic in terms of employee size. And with that is more of an aggressive stance. You know, that can be a good thing because there's more interest in sort of pushing solutions out there and making making self-insurance more accessible for employers. But candidly, in some cases, maybe those are scenarios where maybe some of the aggressive solution options maybe are a little too aggressive, or things that may prompt some. That may look good in the short term, but may prompt some regulatory backlash. So, you know, as the trade association, we don't, unfortunately, we don't have police powers. We don't have the ability to necessarily tell any specific company not to do something. Rather, you know, our role, as we see, is to create a forum of which exchange of ideas and information. And our view is, you know, our members are pretty smart, and for the most part. And to the extent that everyone has an opportunity to hear sort of the pros and cons of different approaches and to be able to access more information in real time, more often than not, we get to the right results. But clearly, there's still some things going on in the industry. There's some push and pull. But again, I attribute that just to companies trying to be aggressive, trying to, again, make that self-insurance option more viable for employers. And you know, we'll see how things shake out.
So Mike, you mentioned regulatory backlash. I'm wondering, what is on your sort of short list of things you want to see on the legislative front? There's a lot that's been going on in our industry, you know, with the tax bill that's been passed and the mandates that are being tinkered with. I know last year in Congress they introduced the Self-Insurance Protection Act, which I think SIPA is for short. Are those kinds of initiatives that you're looking to keep, you know, get out of the committees and actually get a vote on this year, or what's your short list for that?
Yeah, and I guess we're sort of divided in two. Is we've got the sort of the federal landscape and the state landscape. You know, from a federal standpoint, as everyone knows, there's been just a much larger debate on the future of the Affordable Care Act, which SIA has actually not taken any formal position on one way or the other because, candidly, we believe that's other entities' fights. What I best describe is our role is to try to put guardrails around the self-insurance marketplace because that's really the marketplace that's working. So the Self-Insurance Protection Act, which in a real short explanation would prevent federal regulators from indirectly defining stop loss as health insurance, that's kind of it's sort of consistent with that, making sure that this segment of the marketplace that's working will not be impeded on. Now, of course, as everybody knows that follows politics, the machinations in D.C. make it extremely difficult to get anything proactively done. Our bill passed the House with a 400+ vote last year, and the SIPA legislation is still sitting in the Senate this year. You know, we're still pushing it, but as we're getting into a campaign year, so it makes it more difficult. So we're watching that. As far as the state level, we kind of have a not a joke, but sort of an inside sort of saying is every year it's kind of a whack-a-mole situation where we know, we don't know specifically, but we know there's going to be certain states that there are going to things to be popped up, whether it's stop-loss regulation, whether it's
Would that be
TPAs.
the biggest thing in your opinion? Stop-loss regulation on a state level?
Stop-loss seems to be the most common issue, but we also have ERISA preemption issues that will come up periodically. We'll have issues, TPA licensing issues that will come up periodically, those types of things. So we find that, again, you know, every year we're going to have half dozen states that pop up. Now, top on our list on the states is New York State, where we've been working for the last couple of years. There's sort of a looming prohibition on the availability of stop-loss insurance for groups between 50 and 100. And so we've sort of been able to get some delays on that looming restriction, so kind of partial victories, but not not completing the objective entirely. So we'll be back at it this year. New York is of all the states perhaps one of the most tricky states to get anything done at. But clearly that's something that's front and center.
It's funny you mentioned ERISA preemption. So at FIA, that's one of the consulting topics we deal with a lot. It's very boring to the outside world, but it's important because especially states like New York, as they pass paid family leave laws, some of those laws do impact self-insured plans because they have a coverage requirement for health care. So, and the courts aren't really decided on those issues. So we have to sort of navigate, what does the state intend to do here? And we're seeing more states passing laws like that are impacting self-funded plans. So the issue of ERISA preemption is going to, I think, get back into the courts pretty soon. And we'll see some, hopefully some definitions of what exactly is intended for our industry so we can know going forward.
So we know that's on Brady's wish list, right, for 2018. But Mike, what's on your wish list for SIA when we look at 2018? It's a two-part question. What's on your wish list for this year? And then what would you say, based on that, proud of in the 26 years? What's the biggest accomplishment you think that SIA has done to date? But let's get the first part done first.
Would you object if I took those questions out of order?
Sure, that's fine.
So I think probably when I say we're very much a team within SIA. We've got
It's okay. You can say I.
Well, I on behalf of the team.
Really?
I like that approach. Adam, I like that approach. I like this approach. Take notes.
Counsel,
I am taking notes.
I think he's badgering the witness here. Is he not?
A little bit.
Is he not?
You volunteered.
All right. Well, in any event, speaking of team, I think one of the things that I'm most proud of, I will say that, is we have upgraded and expanded our team quite considerably over the last several years. And I think people that have been around SIA for a while have noticed that, especially our government relations team in Washington, D.C. I wouldn't trade them for any team out there. We've brought on some younger people onto our team, and of course, all the ones that have been with us for many years just keeps getting better and better. So I'm proud that we have a team on the field that is really maybe not the biggest in terms of associations, but certainly talent, work hard, and I think serve the membership well. So in that sense, that would be, and by virtue of us improving and expanding our team, I think we've been able to do a lot of good things for the membership. As far as looking forward on the wish list is, we're looking from a SIA standpoint on how we continue to make the association relevant to members, because candidly, membership is entirely discretionary. Coming to conferences is entirely discretionary. Coming to Capitol Hill to support our activities or state governments is entirely discretionary. So I guess what I'm hoping that going forward is we're going to be improving our communications and our programs and our initiatives in a way that the members feel that it's not necessarily discretionary, that they need to be engaged, they need to be members, they need to actively participate. And there's a variety of things that we'll be talking about as the year rolls out that will sort of underpin that objective.
Mike, one of the first questions I asked you had to do with the fact that even though we're one industry and when we have a lot of infighting, it looks really bad, and then the spotlight is on us and regulators use that almost as ammunition against us, and how it's really important to tamp down those conflicts and sort of all row in the same direction. One thing I'll just say personally, your association and your events, from my perspective, when you're sitting in your office and you're only with your own people, it's easy to think of other people, even in our industry, as the competition and to have those conflicts. And I will tell you that when I go to your events and you actually see these people face to face, you realize that we really are one industry and one community. And I don't know really if that's necessarily the purpose of the event, but certainly I think is a byproduct, that maybe knee-jerk reaction to compete or foster some sort of conflict between these organizations within the association, I think they kind of melt away and people talk it through and they come up with a collaborative approach to things. So I want to thank you for what you guys do in that way, and also in the other things that you're doing as an organization. And so you do a lot for us. So the thing I would ask you is, for us and for the listeners, what can we do to help you? Because you're talking a lot about state, federal efforts being made. SIPA sitting in the Senate. If you want me to threaten a government shutdown, I'll go do it, whatever it takes.
Please,
what can we do to help you guys do your job?
So I would say this, probably the central message is to help spread the message. while we have quite a few companies that are members, there are still companies out there that have some connection into the self-insurance marketplace, whether it's a broker, whether it's employer, whether it's other entities that are in the ecosystem that are not SIA members, that are not involved in any, or that maybe are members but don't get involved, is spread the word to your business partners, connections about SIA. If you're listening to this and you're not a member, you can go on our website at sia.org, SIA.org, learn a little bit more about what we do. But I think, it's amazing that we're able to do as much as we can do with a relatively small, in the one sense it's large, but in the grand scheme of things, a relatively small membership base. And I'm pretty convinced that the ecosystem is much larger. And my experience has been the best messaging is sort of a peer-to-peer type scenario. From SIA staff standpoint, we can certainly, we have formalized communications that go out, but nothing beats just a one-on-one conversation between two business partners when one is a trusted business partner can tell them, hey, listen, I found value of getting involved with this organization. We think you should too.
So Mike, one of the things I know is exciting in the works at SIA is really a focus on young professionals and drawing more of them into our industry. And it's something that we worked on here at FIA, and we met in Dallas last month to talk about. So I was wondering if you could just give the listeners a bit of a background about what SIA's plans are for that, or what's your thinking process in reaching out to young professionals?
Sure. This is actually something we've been talking about at the board level for about 2 years, maybe a little bit longer. And my view of this is this is an existential threat to all associations, not just SIA, in terms of if you're not able to get a younger generation of professionals involved. Because in many cases, I can speak from SIA, is in most cases, our member companies have one or two personalities that are like the prime contacts that link that organization in with SIA. And if you walk around a SIA event, you can see someone famously said the stale, pale, and male description of
So
a lot of our
Ron and
demographic.
Brady.
I know.
Well, I didn't want to get into that,
That's
but
fine.
yeah.
I'm a little chewy, but
You're pretty stale and pale, Ron. Just so you know.
I never questioned that.
All right. Well, at least check the mailbox, if nothing else, maybe.
There you go.
But so clearly there's going to be a scenario where you're going to have a disproportionate amount of generational change that's going to be taking place over the next 10 years. And from a SIA standpoint, we think it's pretty critical to make sure that we have sort of the next level of folks that are sort of working their way up through their career paths to be involved in SIA, and more generally to keep them interested in the self-insurance marketplace and not lose them to other industries and lose their talent. So we are working up a variety of initiatives, of which Brady mentioned. We had a planning group that got together recently, and we're going to be announcing the specifics of that soon. But we think that's going to be pretty exciting, and we look forward to see where it goes.
Yeah, and we here at the FIA Group are going to make sure that we get that message out to get as many young professionals to come to our national event at SIA this coming October. Couple of questions. As a fellow CEO, not everyone's always happy with your work. Not everyone always is happy with your efforts, Mike. But what would you say is one of the biggest challenges that most people out there won't appreciate that you have to deal with, whether it's setting up conferences, hotels, but what is one of the big things that people just don't know that just takes a lot of time out of your day and just puts a lot of, headaches in your head?
Well, let me phrase it this way. I wouldn't say headaches, challenge, but it's a necessary challenge. And when you do it right, you get wonderful results. If you think about it, we have a lot of volunteers that are involved in SIA, and tremendous amount of energy, knowledge, ideas, all of that good stuff. But everyone has day jobs, right? So it's not like when we're working on initiatives, whether putting together conference programs or doing other association projects that require a team effort between staff and volunteers. There's a certain art of engaging volunteers in a way that they're able to provide that expertise, but understanding that it is a little bit of a herding cats scenario, because many of which are, we're fortunate we have many that are senior executive types that are involved with our committee system or our board. They've all been successful in their own right. and they all justifiably have certain ideas about what direction the association should go and how it should get there. So as the as the executive staff, your challenge is you're sort of you're juggling lots of different opinions. And fortunately, I think within SIA, and you, Adam, you've been involved, and Ron, you've been involved many years. I would say actually, we actually do a pretty good. We have some pretty interesting meetings sometimes where there's a lot of sort of dissenting opinions. But ultimately, I think we do more often than not. When we have certain planning meetings, committee meetings, et cetera, we're more often than not we're able to navigate and get to some sort of common purpose. But that is, that's an ongoing, challenge. And I would say the other thing more specifically is, live conference events. That's the lifeblood of most organizations. Is reinventing the wheel each year. I mean, there's only so many topics, right, within any particular industry, and I think you're going to see, and we're doing just that. Actually, that's one of the key initiatives for this year and going forward is really to modernize SIA's live events. And we're going to do, consistent with that, for our next event coming up in Charleston, March 5th through 7th, we're going to be doing a lot of new, interesting things that are designed to sort of break away from just the traditional sort of session environment. And I would encourage for anybody that has not already signed up that may want to consider doing that. I think you're going to have a very interesting, engaging conference experience, and we're going to kind of leapfrog off that as we go forward. And then we have some other sort of related things that we're still in the very serious discussion stage, not quite ready for prime time. But I think that is it's exciting, but it's also a challenge. Is we have to modernize that aspect of the association, and we're working toward doing that now.
Well, without giving away all the information, we can tell you that we're taking some of those ideas that you're using in our March conference in Charleston here at the FIA Group for our conference in June as well. So it is a good idea because we're going to be copying it, right, Ron?
I was thinking actually next we should sell them to the NFL because I've heard they're trying to bring viewership back up. They need more of that experience, right?
Right. Last question, try to, even though I may believe you're the most famous Ferguson in the world, that like everyone knows who Mike Ferguson is. Mike, you actually have a pretty famous cousin, a first cousin, not some distant relative, not some third cousin. This is your first cousin, correct? So you mind sharing some insight as to who that person might be, or whatever you could tell us?
All right. So Adam has ambushed me here, but since I'm on the spot, so my first cousin is Stacey Ann Ferguson.
Everyone knows Stacey Ann, right?
Yeah, it sounds like an MGU person.
And some do call her Fergie.
Fergie, so yes. Fergalicious.
Yes, Fergalicious. So so she's first cousin mine, and so there's the one potentially interesting trivia fact about Mike Ferguson.
So for those of you who didn't know that, now you know. You can contact Mike right at SIA for any tickets you may need to any tour coming into your town. Maybe Mike can hook you up with his first cousin Fergie. But Mike, I'll be very honest. We are honored to have you here. This is the first interview to get the CEO and president of SIA as our first interview. Shows just how cool we are, right, Ron? Right, Brady?
Yeah, by association.
I mean, come on, we got Mike Ferguson, first interview. We could have got anybody. We got him.
It's a good get.
In person.
I feel pretty great right now.
So we want to thank you for that, and thank you for coming all the way here to visit our humble offices here in Braintree.
Thanks, guys. Happy to be here.
So, everyone, that's all for today's show. On behalf of Brady, Ron, Pat Santos, Mike Ferguson, and myself, thank you for joining the FIA Group and empowering your plans. Good day.